Okay, here we are, and in this short video we'll be discussing The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. First of all, let's start talking about the title. As we have said in class in the last lessons, Europe after World War I was left, as a wasteland. So the title is partly, at least, related to that. It's not only related to that because it is a very complex poem and it deals with many different themes. For example, the decay of the modern world, solitude, the emptiness of man in the 20s, and so on. It partly deals with the decay of the world after World War I, but as we said, not only that. And as I said, it's a very complex poem because it uses a lot of different styles and techniques. It uses quotes in many different languages. It uses references to different religion, mythologies. We'll get back to it. And it uses many different styles and techniques. The text we'll be reading is like we know it thanks to the editing work by Ezra Pound, and the poem is dedicated to him by Eliot, and he uses the quote from Dante from the Divine Comedy, Il miglior fabbro, and it is just one of the many quotations that are used in this poem. Let's start by talking about history. Basically, there are two main points of view on history, if you think about it. The first one is more or less the conservative ones. These are very broad generalizations, so take it with a grain of salt. So when you look at the glorious past and you want to restore that glorious past in a decadent present, more or less you are having a conservative point of view. This, the other way is to look at the future sorti e progressive, for example. So when you look at the world in a way that the future will always be better than the past, you are, broadly speaking, a progressive. And in this case, Eliot, just like Pound, and just like many other artists and writers, poets, and so on, of this period, is, very generally speaking, a conservative, because the large part of this poem describes the wasteland that it is the present of the poet, and he sees the past as a golden age that will never come back, or that will come back in a very it's going to be very hard to have this golden age come back. Part of this point of view in history is reflected in how this poem is constructed. One of the techniques that Eliot uses is the so-called mythical method that's related with myth. Myth are stories set always in the past, even when they were created in, for example, in ancient Greece. They refer to an unspecified past. So they're always in the past. The mythical method used by Eliot and by Joyce as well is a way to adapt the present to the form of myth. So Eliot and Joyce are going to use myth to describe their present. In this way, they not only make reference to the past, but they put present out of time in a way, because myth is not set in a precise time frame. It is set in an unspecified time. So you put the present in a sort of eternal time that does not move. Eliot uses many different mythologies as source material. One of the main characters, the sort of narrator for The Wasteland, is Tiresias, a Greek a character in Greek tragedy. For example, Oedipus the King. He is a character that embodies both men and women, and also he's a blind prophet, just more or less like Homer, so he can see without eyes. So he has a different point of view, a universal point of view on things, because he doesn't see with the eyes, and he embodies both the masculine and the feminine nature of man. Another technique that Eliot used, and that is going to be very important for your final exam, is the objective correlative. To quote a critical essay by Eliot himself, objective correlative is a set of objects, a situation, or a chain of events which shall be the formula of that particular emotion. It is not a symbol. It is a direct way in which an emotion is conveyed through an object or a situation. We'll see that specifically in next lesson, when we'll be dealing with the fire sermon, which is another part of The Wasteland. By the way, the structure of The Wasteland, you can find that in your books. It's made up by 5 main parts, and here we'll be dealing with an extracts from the first part. Then we will next lesson we'll be talking about the fire sermon, which is the 3rd part of the poem. So once again, it will be learn very well objective correlative, because it's going to be very important for your exam, because it is a direct link for your oral test, because the same kind of technique is used by Eugenio Montale. Okay, let's have a look at the text. This is the beginning. These are the first and the last lines of the first part of the Wasteland. This first part is called the Burial of the Dead, which is a part of the name of the rite of Anglican Church when someone dies. You can see the dedication of the poem for Ezra Pound, Il miglior fabbro, and we will start with the first line. And the first line is one of the most famous quotes in English literature. April is the cruelest month. You will notice that these first 4 lines, how shall we say it, reverse the usual ideas on spring as a period of rebirth. We have studied in the previous years authors like Chaucer and Wordsworth, who use spring, and April in particular, as the period of rebirth of nature, and the period of joy and life, when life once again triumphs over the death that's winter. Here we have a total reversal of this image, because April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring roots with spring rain. In this case, April makes the flowers bloom, but also, since they bloom, they are destined to die. And they bloom out of the dead land. So in this wasteland, everything that comes out is destined to die. And the only period of bliss is winter. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dry tubers. Before birth, we have all the possibilities. Once you start blooming, like the lilacs, you are destined to die. Keep in mind this image of snow, because it will be used again by Joyce. We'll get to it either in class or in another video if this lockout goes on. Why winter kept us warm? Because, as you probably already know, snow prevents, when it snows on fields, it prevents the field to become to be burned by ice. It creates a sort of blanket that isolates the earth from the cold air outside and makes seeds and plants and roots and so on in a sort of sleep that will not suffer the damages of extreme cold. It isolates from extreme cold. So once again, keep in mind the image of forgetful snow, because we will find it again. Let's move to the last part of the poem that starts with the line "unreal city," which is quite interesting. First of all, let me point out the places where this small number of verse is set. You see that I highlighted in red: London Bridge, King William Street, and St. Mary Woolnoth. They're all places in the City of London, which, as you know, is the economic center of the town. This part, which is the economic heart of England at the time of the English Empire as well, so one of the most important economic centers of the world at the time, is part of the unreal city. So it looks like a place that is not part of reality, under the brown fog of a winter dawn. What do we have here? We have the image of people walking on London Bridge, but they don't look alive. So many, I had not thought death hadn't done so many. They just walk silently in short steps. They sigh, and everyone fixes their own feet. They don't look at each other. They don't talk to each other. They just move up north to the City of London, to the place of work. So an army of a large group of people that look like zombies in a way, flow up the hill to feed the economic system of the town. And they, in a way, they remind me of this picture, Stati d'animo uno, quelli che restano, by Umberto Boccioni. We have the fog that's green, not brown. We have people looking down, moving on. Let's have a look at the final lines. There are some very interesting references. Partly, you have that on your book. The last line, "You hypocrite lecteur, mon semblable, mon frère," if I am not mistaken, check your books, is a quote from by Baudelaire. Here we have one example of mythical method in use on line 70. "You were with me in the ship at Milae. Mylae is a place where a battle in ancient Greece was set. So here, these people that probably look like Magritte people, the ones with the top hat and very elegant, all the same, all moving slowly on this bridge and towards the center of London, refer to a battle of the ancient past. So here we have an example of the mythical method used here. Okay, so that is all for now. Next time we'll be dealing with the fire sermon, so the third part of this poem, and we'll see how the unreal city will come back. We'll deal with the figure of Tiresias, and we'll see how the objective correlative is used here as an example of in another extract of this poem. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.